It's thinking. There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Outside the Box, the podcast devoted to supporting Central PA's small business. Today on the show, you can see right beside me, and I put it the right way this time, the first time, Hugh and Galen of Metro Public Adjustment, and we'll get to them right in a second. I am Derek Bixler, your host, realtor, and digital marketing geek right here in Central PA. I grew up on the Hill, went to Mechanicsburg High School, went up to Penn College of Technology in Williamsport, and have been here ever since. Had a few sales jobs before I started selling real estate 15 years ago. If you need to buy or sell a home, please contact me. We are in really short supply of inventory. So if you have a house to sell, please reach out to me. You can text me, email me, throw a rock through my window, send a carrier pigeon, whatever you need to do. Prices really are way up, and there are a million buyers for every house. We really need inventory. I think I was looking at the stats the other day in our sales meeting, and it was at like the quarter of active listings as we do over as compared to a 5-year average. So a quarter of the active listings that we usually have. So really need inventory. If you're interested in our networking mixer invites, episode announcements, or exclusive special offers, go to supportcentralpa.com and you can sign up for our weekly email there. It's not spammy. It's actually me creating it and just tells you what's going on with the group. If you are on Clubhouse, follow me. I'm at Agent Derek. And actually after this episode, every Thursday, 1 to 2, we are on Clubhouse with Central PA's Small Business Connect. And you can log in there. If I won't geek out on what Clubhouse is right now, but it's a place where we can all network and we exchange business, get to know each other. Just another way to connect with small businesses in our area. So head over to Clubhouse after this episode. A reminder to ask a question in the comments. If you have any questions, if we don't see it right now, we'll come back and answer them later for you. Or you can just say hi. If you know Galen or Hugh, say hi to them. Tell us where you're watching from. And a reminder that all the replays are on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the audio places soon. So you can catch it wherever you like to consume your content. And if you're watching it on LinkedIn or YouTube or anywhere other than Facebook, please head over to Facebook and join our Central PA Support Small Business Facebook group. And with that, I will bring in our guests, Galen Krebs of Metro Public Adjustment and Hugh Hynes of Metro Public Adjustment as well. And we'll talk to Galen first. Galen, thanks for being on the show. Tell us a little bit about your background before it does.
All righty. Well, thanks for having us. I am originally from York County, Pennsylvania. Grew up on a small farm down in the southern portion of the county. And when I was 16, I became a volunteer firefighter. At 17, joined the U.S. Navy, spent 5 years in the Navy and a year in the Army, and then finally became a professional firefighter and paramedic and did that for 31 years. After I retired from the fire department 16 years ago, I worked for a few other places, odds and ends, guiding hunters out west, working for a sporting goods store. And one day I realized the people I was working for were money hungry, didn't give a darn about people. And that's not my kind of people. And I decided I got to find something else. And I quit and eventually got involved as a public insurance adjuster, an advocate for homeowners, and I've been happy ever since.
So what age did you say you started voluntary firefighting?
16 years old.
16. Is that like the minimum age you can do it?
Yes.
And what made you want to do that? Did you just like helping people? Was it the adrenaline, the excitement? What led you to want to do that? Or was it in the family?
It's absolutely wanting to help people. I've always been one to try to help. And it just pushed me to get more and more involved as a volunteer. And the excitement, I think, of riding on the back of the fire engine was probably part of it. That's the good old days when we rode in the back. And I was 4 miles outside of town, I think, if I remember correctly. I lived on a farm, and it would take me 2.5 minutes to get to the fire station on my motorcycle. So, that was exciting too.
So you also had a motorcycle at that age?
Oh, yes. I have had 13 motorcycles over the years.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. And nice parents you had to let you have a motorcycle.
Well,
did you pay for it yourself did you get paid for, you didn't get paid, you're a volunteer, right?
Well, no, I didn't get paid from that, but I worked for some neighbors, worked on a couple of farms, earned some money. And when I wanted to buy the motorcycle, Dad said, well, if you buy a motorcycle, you can't use the car. That's fine. So I drove motorcycle 365 days a year. If it wasn't too deep in the snow, I did drive in snow. I drove in sleet. I drove in rain. I drove in cold. I remember going to high school and going into homeroom And my cousin would be sitting next to me in our homeroom at that time. I don't know how they do it today, but back then we had this homeroom every morning. And she would sit there and actually rub my hands because they were pretty well numb. So she kept my hands warm while we had our homeroom class. But the good old days.
Yeah, I was going to say you got used to the rain and all the elements and
Absolutely.
toughened up for sure.
Yep.
So you fell in love with all that stuff, obviously, because you continued with it. Did you do something when you went to the Navy and the Army? Were you doing some kind of emergency work in there, or what did you do in the armed forces?
In the Navy, all all sailors are responsible to be on a fire crew. So I had fire training, got to do all that in the Navy. I was actually a reconnaissance photographer. So I was on 2 aircraft carriers, and one of the aircraft carriers that we were on, was the Saratoga, if I remember correctly. We were working on the flight deck, and one of the aircraft caught on fire. And I never forgot it because my chief petty officer at the time was out there working with us when this fire broke out on this jet. And myself and another guy ran to grab the fire hose, and the chief ran past us and went down the gangplank and went down below. So needless to say, I knew I couldn't count on him anymore. And we had quite a conversation after the fire was out.
Was he supposed to stay up there, or was it his job to run and you were supposed to stay there?
No. It is every man's and woman's duty when you're on board a ship to fight fires.
Huh. I mean, you'd like a leader that might lead you rather than.
Absolutely.
So do you get demoted for something like that, or what? Do you get marks against you, or?
Well, this was back during the Vietnam era, and nothing ever came out of it, except he apologized to me and said it will never happen again. And we never had the opportunity to test that. So that's the way it went.
So when you got out of college, you continued with the firefighting. After that, was it the type of thing where you're living like in the firehouse and sliding down the pole and that kind of thing?
When I became a career firefighter, yes, we did not have a pole. Well, we did, but we never used it anymore because there's so many injuries.
I would have had to use the pole. I don't know. I would have had to use it.
We did get to play with it once in a while, but we didn't use it on a normal day-to-day basis. I was actually in 2 different departments as a career firefighter, and one was in the Harrisburg area, and one was down in Northern Virginia, D.C. area, and that's where I retired from.
Did you have a lot of fires? Were the areas you worked places where there were lots of fires, or?
No, we didn't have a lot of fires. I don't remember my first department. It seems to me we might have had 500 or 600 calls a year, not many at all. The second department, when I started with them, we were running 750 calls a year, roughly. When I left, we were running over 4,000 calls a year. So we kept quite busy. Now I understand they're up over 7,000.
Wow. And what contributes to that?
More people. I was on the engine, and I was on the medic unit, and I was on the aircraft crash rescue trucks too. We had everything. We did everything, and we were always being called for something somewhere. And we would go into Loudoun County, Virginia, Fairfax County, down into West Virginia. We would go up into Maryland. I mean, we were all over the place just to help. Whenever they called us, we went.
Huh. So it'd be fair to say that a large majority of fires are human error?
I would think so, yeah. And we didn't do just fire. We did medical responses. We did vehicle crashes. We did aircraft crashes. We did below ground rescue. We did above ground rescue. The last department I was in, all our personnel were certified in mine rescue. And so we did some mine rescues, and it was always something happening.
That's interesting. And then you also mentioned reconnaissance photography. What did that consist of? Is that like up in a plane, flying around, taking pictures, or is that sneaking around behind enemy lines, taking pictures? Or I have to know what this is.
I was actually very fortunate. I got to fly in helicopters a few times and take photographs of some bombing raids and stuff like that. Most of what I did was actually pull film out of F-8 aircraft, which was the predecessor to the F-4, which was before the Tomcat. The F-8 had 4 camera systems on, if I remember correctly. And we would take care of maintaining those camera systems and getting the film in and out. And then we had a processing area and so on. So that was the primary job. But every now and then I got to fly helicopters, and I enjoyed that.
That's awesome. So how did you get, so you're doing the firefighting stuff on that side. How did you end up doing reconnaissance photography? Was that something that came up as something you could choose and you just said, I'd like to do that?
Well, when I was in high school, I did photography for my high school. Did the yearbook and whatever, sporting events. When I went in the Navy, the Navy gives you an opportunity to pick what you want to do, and of course you had to take tests, and I took all the tests, and I was qualified to be a photographer. Then the Navy actually assigns you to where you're going to go. I put in to go to Europe, and ended up in Southeast Asia. So, you have a little bit of choice, but not much. You kind of got to go where they tell you to go. And
how is Southeast Asia? Aside from that, is it like tropical there?
Oh yeah. Well, I was there in January. I was January through April, I think it was. And we had snow quite a few times off the coast of Japan. The Philippines were absolutely amazing. Definitely tropical. Hong Kong, I really got a kick out of Hong Kong. Always wanted to go back to Hong Kong before the Chinese took it over, but never made it back. And a few other places. I can't remember all the places. Oh, Korea, South Korea was there. So it's interesting. But
That's
I like
fun.
Pennsylvania. I prefer.
Well, we're happy you came back and you started out in York and you ended up in, where do you live now? York?
We're in Gettysburg.
Oh, awesome. Great market there. Great little town you have there too. And Littlestown, I've sold a house or two there. Really nice area. Awesome. Well, we're glad you're here. And now we'll move over to Hugh. Hugh, hello, Hal. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for sitting there quietly while we talk to Galen. Tell everybody who you are and a little bit of your background, where you grew up, that kind of thing, before we talk about where we're at now.
I'm originally from upstate New York. I moved down to Maryland and took a job working for an ambulance company. And just like Galen, when I was in New York, I started in the fire service when I was 16 as a volunteer. There weren't many firefighting jobs up there when I was up there. So that's why I moved to Maryland to take an EMS job. I've worked in different private ambulance companies throughout Baltimore. Then I moved into construction safety and did that for a few years. Got to see some interesting projects doing the construction safety. Fell back into the EMS role, working on the ambulance, and then just recently with some changes at home with family, my wife and I had a talk and decided that I needed to be home a little more. She's a nurse, so she works nights, so she wanted somebody to be home with our 10-year-old son instead of him being home at night by himself. So this
seems fair.
Yeah. So working for Metro, I can do, I can make my own schedule. I can do what I want and use my time as I need to, and then still be home at night to be with him.
Yeah. The beauties of working for yourself.
Yes.
It turns into the hardships of working for yourself sometimes, but no, it is definitely one of the beauties, and hard to give up once you have that freedom and can stay home with the kids, or if there's an emergency with school, you can go get them, or there's a game or something that you need to be flexible for. That's awesome. So you came from a firefighting and an emergency background as well. So what age did you say you started volunteering?
16.
16. Which Galen, was that the same? 16?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not the same age though, so it wouldn't have been at the exact same time, I guess. But did you have a motorcycle?
No.
No motorcycle. Did you have a car?
I rode my bike to the firehouse.
Okay.
I grew up in a really small town of 4,000 people, so the town wasn't very big, and I could ride and still make the fire truck on my bike.
Nice. Did you have a little light that you put on your bike?
No. Nope.
So then you progressed into the EMS work, and you mentioned Baltimore. You were EMS in Baltimore City?
Well, for private ambulance, and we did it more transports from nursing home to doctor's appointments, non-emergency stuff. We didn't do any 911. I did volunteer when I was living in Hartford County with the fire department there, but the majority of the 911 responses in Baltimore City, Baltimore County are handled with county and city fire department.
And yeah, I mean, I watched The Wire a number of times. So if you're familiar with that show, that's what I was picturing if you were at EMS in Baltimore City, which would have been a while ago, probably around that time, I would guess. Okay. So how did you get into that stuff? Did you like helping people? Did you crave the adrenaline? What led you to it? Did you just fall in your lap? Somebody else did it in your family?
Nobody in my family did it. I don't know. I just like helping people. Growing up in a small town, everybody knows everybody. So it's like, all right, well, let's do something. There wasn't a whole lot to do in my town. It's not like, being around here where you got 20 fast food restaurants, 3 theaters, whatever the case may be. We had 2 grocery stores, 2 gas stations, and that was about it.
It shows you perspective, because a lot of people that grew up here are thinking, we have nothing around here. There's nothing to do. We got to drive 3 hours to New York or something. But if you're someone like you, then it depends where you're coming from. And I happen to like those kind of places. So I'd be at home there. Do you still have family there?
Yes. Yeah.
So your son, who you said is watching, probably or hopefully watches this, has he been there? Does he like it up there?
The only thing that he'll probably remember is we went back home for my niece's wedding. He was in the wedding. He was the ring bearer in the wedding. And it wasn't actually in my hometown, but when he was first born, I did take him home, and, we do have some pictures. Like, both my parents had passed prior to him being born. So my father was a teacher, and they had a dedication for him at the school. They had a plaque and a tree planted for him at the school. So we went up and took pictures with the plaque and him and me. And so it was kind of 3 generations all together at one spot.
Yeah, that's cool. So did you have your dad as a teacher? What grade did he teach?
Yeah. He was elementary phys ed.
Okay. So you had him for like 3 or 4 years or something.
Yeah.
Right. Cause he would have been your gym teacher the whole time you're there. Was that good or bad?
Depends on if I was in trouble. If I got
it was a really small school, I'm guessing, right?
If I got in trouble at school, he knew about it before he got home.
And there were paddles back then with holes in them.
I cannot confirm or deny that.
I'll confirm it. I definitely once, and I've seen it. I think I was towards the tail end of it, but yeah, that's funny. So does your son want to do anything? I mean, he's pretty young, right?
Yeah, he's 10. Actually, it's kind of funny because he grew up in the firehouse. Both my wife and I volunteered in Westminster for a while. And part of the reason I started with Metro Public Adjustment is we lost our house to a fire in Westminster in 2016. And if you go and you talk to my son, he can tell you what fire departments were there, where they were, what they were doing, what equipment was there, where the ladder truck was. He can tell you all of it.
That's all. Did he write it down, or he just has a good memory, or what? Was he sitting outside the house while all the trucks were there, looking at all what was written on them and everything?
I had my wife move her car, so we were in a townhouse, and all the cars line up in front of the house. And I knew that once they started pulling hose, that there was going to be cars getting dinged and things were going to happen. So I told my wife to move the car. Well, she put him and our 2 dogs in the car and pulled them out of the court so he could sit there and watch. Not so he could sit there and watch, but he sat in the car and watched everything all night.
Yeah, I mean, it probably had a huge impact on him if he ends up becoming some huge firefighter or hero someday. That would probably, I would guess, that would be his origin story, was his watching this emergency happen. That's pretty cool, I guess. Nobody was hurt, right?
No.
Nope. So hopefully everything turned out well. And then you mentioned you were in the construction safety field. What exactly did you do in that field?
So I worked for a couple different organizations. One of them was like a consulting firm. So we would go out and do job site inspections to make sure that, people are using ladders properly. There's no hazards that our employees can get hurt by. One of the projects I first started with was on a military base, and we were building a facility there. So I was the full-time on-site safety coordinator for that and coordinated with all the subcontractors that came in. And then the last project I worked on was a 6-mile combination above ground, underground conveyor belt in Union Bridge for Lehigh Cement. So they were opening a new quarry and they had to get the rock. They figured out the cheapest way was to build this 6-mile long conveyor belt.
Huh.
So
6 miles.
Yeah.
How big? This is like a 12-foot wide kind of thing, or?
I think it was probably 4 or 5 foot wide.
Carrying what? Aggregate.
Yep.
Huh.
So they would blast the rock. They would blast the rock, crush it up a little bit, dump it on the conveyor belt. That would take it over to the main processing plant, and then they would process it from there.
Wow. It almost seems like it would be easier just to build the processing plant closer to the, like right next to the place than 6 miles. Holy cow.
The processing plant has been in place for years, and they've used up all the rock that's in the quarry there. So now this is another quarry that they had bought, and they can't just pick up the whole plant and move it.
Gotcha. So sometimes they do that. They try to build the processing close to the quarry itself a lot of times. Initially, yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. And then didn't you mention something about fireworks? You were talking about fireworks yesterday.
Yeah, I used to shoot fireworks and do pyrotechnics. I held my license in Maryland, so I did a lot of shows in Maryland. Concerts that came through needed somebody with a local license, so they would hire me to just come in and make sure everything was set up according to the state regulations and the NFPA. And then through that, I got connected with a company that did Monster Jam and ended up doing a Monster Jam tour down the East Coast one year. And as part of that, my son and my wife were able to go to Las Vegas with me for the World Finals. They got a vacation, and I ended up having to work for a week.
It was worth it for them, for sure. And it's a pretty cool job, it sounds like. So you're not missing any fingers like every nope, pyrotechnic person in every movie? I had a neighbor actually growing up. They were Greek, and it was the craziest neighbor. It was this couple, and they had his big garage. It was in the city of Harrisburg, so it's not really a place where you would have a big garage or any of the stuff. He had a satellite dish on top of his garage. He had this giant antenna that went, 5-6 stories into the air. He would be talking to people in Greece via these things, and it would like take over our phone if you were on the phone and he was doing it. It was the craziest thing. But I always remember him because he was missing like 4 or 5 of his fingers. And he would set up bombs on 4th of July and everything. And he always carried guns and would shoot them off at midnight and stuff. So that's always what I think of when I hear that kind of stuff. What was I going to ask? I forget. Something about fireworks. I forget. We'll come back to it if I remember. So you're both in the safety field and like to help people. So let's tell a little bit about how you can help people with Metro Public Adjustment. I guess let's tell people generally what Metro Public Adjustment and you guys do, and then we'll talk about some of those unknown things that people can look out for in their policies or to get the most out of their policies. So whoever wants to take it, tell us a little bit about Metro Public Adjustment.
Well, I guess since Hugh's in training it, I might as well get started. Metro Public Adjustment was established in 1993, and we are an advocate for homeowners and business owners when you have an insurance claim. So we do 2 things. First of all, we educate you about your homeowner policy, and second of all, we protect you from the games the insurance company likes to play. So to start out, we'd like to come into your home or your business, sit down with you, and do a property coverage review of the coverages that you currently have, and then look at your property and point out to you areas that are lacking. We see a lot of companies that will give you an actual cash value policy instead of a replacement cost policy. Or you may have replacement costs on your dwelling, but not on your personal property. You may not have coverage for water backup, or you might not have enough coverage overall. A variety of things. We look for deductibles. Percentage deductibles are a big deal right now. A lot of companies are going to it, and it's not to the consumer's advantage. So we try to point these things out to you. And if the homeowner wants to keep that policy the way it is, or the business owner, they can certainly do that. But if they're not happy with what we pointed out to them, then we recommend they contact their agent and discuss it and try to make the changes that they need. And then when you have a claim, you can call us. We can evaluate the claim before you call your insurance company to make sure that it's a covered loss. Make sure that you have what you need in your policy so that you get full payment on it. And we go after the insurance company on your behalf, assist you to get the proper settlement for it.
And that's probably a good clarification to make. You are not an insurance company. You're not selling insurance. The service you provide is reviewing people's coverage and getting them the most out of their claims, correct?
Yeah, we're strictly adjusters. We are your adjuster instead of an insurance company adjuster. And the big difference between an insurance company adjuster, an independent adjuster, and a public insurance adjuster is the requirements. In most states, and we're licensed in 47 states, in most states, a public adjuster has to go through continuing education. They have to pass a state exam. They have to be bonded in several states. And the insurance company doesn't have that requirement. The independent, for the most part, does not have that requirement. So I would rather have somebody who's licensed and bonded and trained coming into my home that's now got damage working for me, as compared to somebody who just learned from the insurance company what they want them to know, and they're coming there to work for the insurance company and keeping the boss in mind. So we do provide a very valuable service to get you treated fairly.
And how do you get training? I guess you mentioned Hugh is going through the training as we speak. What is the training, and what kind of background do people have before they get in the industry? Does Metro provide all the training that you need if you have no background in doing this at all?
Absolutely.
I didn't have any background in the insurance industry when I started, and Galen happened to stop me one day because he had saw that we'd had some contractors at the house doing some work, and we started talking. And then that was at the beginning of COVID, so it was kind of difficult to do much at that point. But then I got thinking back when we had our house fire, I tried to run the whole claim myself. And granted, it was a total loss, but having to deal with the insurance adjuster and then having to deal with the contractor, and the contractor not doing what I'm telling them to do, and having to go back to the insurance company, it became more stressful than the actual incident of having the fire and losing everything. And, I got thinking that, hey, I've had a fire, I've been through it. I can use that experience to try to help the claim process. And when I signed up with Galen, the company does test training every Monday night. They take an hour or so and go through certain sections of what you need to know to pass the test. They sent me all my test study materials that I needed to pass the test in Pennsylvania. They do training Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, just general company training, not focused on the test, but different things to help with that.
What is the test? What does the license test consist of? Is that more the law, kind of like the real estate license? It's more the laws and disclosures and kind of the stuff that you end up not using all that much?
Yeah, that's some of it. It's, what are the different types of policies? Is it a general high risk policy? Is it a all risk policy? What are the limits? What are the requirements for the insurance company to contact the client or you, or for you to deal, things back and forth like that. And, everything gets covered in the test training on Mondays. Like I said, they sent me the Pennsylvania study guide, and all the information was in there. Galen had some resources that he loaned me to get things taken care of. So the people at Metro are there to help you get through it and pass the test and get you on board.
And there's a national portion too? It's like real estate, there's a state and a national portion, or just a state test for that?
Just a state test.
Yeah, you have
Gotcha.
to be licensed in every state that requires a license. He's studying for Pennsylvania. When he's through his training, then he'll be licensed in Pennsylvania, and I'm hoping he'll go to Maryland and get his license there. I'm licensed in Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, and Texas. So you can go to almost any state and get licensed once you get an established license in another state.
And what's it called? It's actually called public insurance adjuster license?
Yes.
Okay. And what does it like technically allow you to do? Review policies and give guidance in the insurance field, or what does it encompass?
Yeah, under our license, we can actually review insurance policies just like an insurance agent. I cannot sell insurance. I am regulated by the insurance commission or administration, depending on the state. I cannot sell insurance, but I can give you suggestions to talk to your agent. And that's what we really like to do, because so many people just don't have the coverages that they need.
And it makes sense that you can't sell insurance, and it gives consumers, I would think, it gives me peace of mind to know that you're working for the person you're supposed to be working for, the consumer, and not the insurance company, or have some back end reason to get something out of it. So I think that's great. So you mentioned you do policy reviews and then claim evaluations. What if somebody already made a claim? Can they call you after they've already made a claim, or think they're being screwed now?
Yes, they can. In most states, up to 1 year after the date of loss, we can come in and revisit your claim and go after additional money. If, for example, I'm working one right now that had been paid. We're going after additional money. It looks like there's going to be a considerable amount available there, and we only take our fee from whatever that difference is. If we get you $50 million more, we take our fee from that. If we get you $5 more, our fee comes from that. So it's up to 1 year. Some states like Maryland, we can go 2 years, and that's always a benefit.
So if somebody had a past claim that they think maybe they didn't get paid out enough, they could come to you for that as well.
Absolutely.
That's big.
And
so
every year we like to go into your home and sit down with you and review your coverages, because they are making changes. They're making a lot of changes right now. Insurance companies are changing their policies, they're changing the wording, and very little what they're doing is for the consumer.
Which makes sense. I mean, it's changes are usually to help the bottom line in most cases. So, and if most people don't look at their homeowner's insurance, even when they first get it, it's kind of just, insurance agents send me whatever I'm supposed to get, put it on there, and I'll pay for it. So I think it's a great service, and you don't think about it till you need something, and then you have to call Galen or Hugh. So that's a good lead into what are some of those unknown things that people should look out for, maybe when they're going to get a homeowner's policy for a new home, or if they're looking at their policy that they have.
Hugh, you want to touch base on that a little bit?
Well, one of the biggest things that we see is the deductible, and Galen touched on it earlier that, if you have a percentage deductible on your insurance, as inflation goes up, the price of your home goes up, your deductible is going up. And your deductible is based off the price of the house, not necessarily the deductible on the loss. So if you have a $5,000 loss and a $500,000 house, you're paying whatever the percentage is on the $500,000, not the $5,000 loss. So in a case like that, it may not be worth filing a claim on that. So that's one of the things you need to look at. Another big thing that people don't seem to have is accidental discharge of water, or water backup. You get water in your basement from, whatever reason, it may or may not be covered. If you've got a finished basement that's, you got turned into a man cave and everything, down there is expensive, then you may or may not be covered depending on what the price is. So
what should people be looking for to cover something like that specifically? Or what should, if somebody's calling their insurance agent, and whoever can answer this, if somebody's calling their insurance agent and saying, hey, I want to make sure my finished basement I just did, and this big screen TV and all this audio equipment is down there, and my kids' cribs and all, maybe not cribs, but all that stuff is down there. So what should they be asking for?
Well, I would have to say it depends on what it costs. So, for example, if you just remodeled your home, you just remodeled that basement, and you put in $15,000 of new, now you need to have that covered. So you want to look at the entire basement, the entire potential loss area, and come up with a number and talk to your agent about getting it insured for 15, 20, 25,000, whatever the case may be. And then also look at your deductibles. And then you want to be sure that you contact your insurance company anytime you do an improvement to your house of $5,000 or more. There are stipulations in most insurance policies. If you do an improvement to your home of $5,000 or more, they need to know about it. Your insurance policy is going to go up, but they have the right to know what's happening in your home and insure it properly and completely.
Because if you don't, and then you have a claim, they won't cover it, right?
They can deny the claim. They typically won't deny it, but they might not pay it completely.
And then in the case of like a basement flooding, that kind of thing, is just aside from I finished it and now there's more valuable stuff in my house and my house is worth more, is the part about the water something people need to say, hey, we get water in here. I know it's not a flood zone, so we don't have flood insurance, but can we put some kind of water rider or something on there?
If you have an area that you're going to get water in your basement that comes across the threshold of the door, most likely you're going to need a flood policy. But if you have drains in your basement or a sump pump in your basement or a sewer pump in your basement, and that water discharge occurs from those areas and you don't have water backup, you might not get coverage. So you want to have that coverage. And that's what we look for. We look at your house. We look at your house to see, do you have drains? Do you have the sump pump, the sewer pump? What type of fuel do you have for heating? What type of heat do you have throughout the house? Do you have any hazards that you should be aware of? If you can avoid a hazard, if you have a hazard that we point out to you and you can fix that before anything happens, that's certainly to your advantage. But if the insurance company would find out, if they would ever come out and check for some reason, they could change your policy or do things that aren't necessarily wonderful for you. For example, I had a fire here at the house back in '93, a chimney fire. A year later, the insurance company sent out a representative to photograph the house and the area that we had claimed. And while he was here, he started photographing other areas of my property and went back to his company, and they notified me that they were going to cancel my policy unless I put a new roof on my shed. So I was not happy about that. But had I had somebody review my policy and review my home prior to this happening, maybe I could have taken care of that without having that hassle.
Yeah. Are there any other examples of hazards to look out for like that?
Well, one of the things that we like to do is check your smoke detectors. Make sure that you are using smoke detectors in the house and that they're working. That is such a big deal.
Is that a deal killer if for like a claim, if you had a fire and
No.
and they came in and said they're no?
Okay. It's thank goodness it's not. I don't encounter it very often, but I think Hugh, having worked in Baltimore, if he was doing reviews in Baltimore, he might see it more than what we do here in the central Pennsylvania area. But our job is to make sure that you're educated about your policy and then protect you from the insurance company. But we also want to provide you a service to you and help you to be prepared. Okay, so we do like to check the smoke detectors and make sure that you can get out of your house if you have to and that kind of thing. The only thing I've ever seen that just really sickens me is when you go to a house that just had a fire and you talk to the homeowner and they tell you, well, we don't have insurance. And you say, the first time I encountered it was up in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, not Lewisburg, Lewistown, Pennsylvania. There were 17 houses in a row that burnt. And I was talking to the homeowners, and I encountered two of the homeowners who did not have insurance. And I asked them, I said, why don't you have insurance on your house? Both of them told me, well, we've been here for over 40 years. Our house has been paid for the last 25 years or 20 years or whatever it was. We just figured we didn't need insurance. That was sad. That was flat out sad. They had nothing to rebuild. They had no help in rebuilding. They were going to have to go out and get, a new home loan to rebuild. And that's sad. So I like to check policies before they need us, because if you don't have what you need, I can't get you money. Plain and simple.
And it's probably a safe bet if it's been 10 or 20 years or some really long time and you don't even know if you have insurance or not. You might want to look into it and make sure you're covered. And just because you own your house and the bank isn't forcing you to have insurance doesn't mean you shouldn't have it, for sure. Is there any other hazards that people should definitely know, that like if you have this, the insurance will definitely cancel you, or if they find out about it, they won't pay a claim?
The only one that I've really seen is if you have a situation. We did a claim for somebody that had damage at their house, and we walked around the house and we went around the back side of the house, and there's this huge 4 foot by 6 foot by 8 foot deep hole. Why it was there, who dug it, I have no idea. But that is a deal killer for an insurance company. If their representative comes out and he sees this, they're going to send you a letter saying you need to fix this problem in 30 days, or we're going to cancel we're going to cancel. And they certainly have the right to reduce the risk. So we look at these things and we try to point it out to the homeowner before they have a substantial risk there, to make sure that they get things straightened out.
So kind of somewhat common sense. If you're making a big change to the property, or if you're creating a big hazard to the property, then all of those things might trigger the insurance company not liking something, right?
Yeah, the only time I've ever seen them cancel a policy is when they didn't get their payment, or if you misrepresented yourself to them. That's the only time I've seen them cancel it. I've seen them raise premiums because you filed a claim. They're not really supposed to, but they typically will do that, especially if you have a claims-free discount. They're going to take that away. And it makes sense. You had no claim, now you had a claim, now you have a claim on your record. They're going to take that claim-free discount away. And so that's not unusual. But one thing I did want to mention, we had a claim years ago. We had one of our reps do a review for somebody, and when she was doing this review, she found that the guy didn't have insurance. He had a forced place policy in effect, which essentially he didn't pay his insurance. The mortgage company took out an insurance policy on the property for the price of the mortgage, and the only one who was covered was the mortgage company. And he was paying more for that policy than he would have on the regular policy. We pointed that out to him, explained to him why he needed to call his agent immediately and get a policy. 6 months later, he had a total loss fire. Called the rep. She went out, sat down with him and said, did you call your agent and get insurance? And thankfully, he did. He had a $450,000 loss that was covered. So it's a big deal about what we do.
Do you have any other examples of maybe claims that the insurance company was offering X and you were able to get the client X, or can you talk about that kind of thing?
I have quite a few, actually, but one that comes to mind off the top of my head, we had a roof claim in York where the homeowner was actually paid $65 for the roof by the insurance company, and we got involved and settled it for $12,800. So
wow,
that's pretty.
I don't know what X that is, but that's a lot of X's.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
and this is
totally.
This is every day. This is every.
And then did you say you don't get paid until they get paid, kind of thing? Is that how it works, or you get paid as a percentage of what you get for the client?
Right. We work on a percentage, so we get a percentage of whatever the settlement is, and that's the only downside that I have seen to the whole process. Somebody's got to make the payment. So, if you get a check for $12,800 and you have to give us a portion of it, I don't think that's a bad thing because you had $65 before that, but it does hurt sometimes to have to take that money from people. But we did our job.
And then what happens if you look at their claim or look at their policy and you just say, this is awesome, or you're getting as much as you can get and we can't do anything? Is there a fee for reviewing or something, or is that just for them?
That's we will only get our fee if we get you additional money. So if we go in and look at your policy and that estimate looks really good. Matter of fact, I had a fire over in East Berlin about 9-10 years ago. Had 2 houses in East Berlin that burnt, and the owner came to us and asked us to review the estimate to see if he's going to be paid fairly. We did that, and our calculations, he was within 5% of what he should have had. And at that point, the homeowner said, well, I think I'm going to be okay with this. And we said, yep, sounds good. And we just shook hands, thanked him for allowing us to look at it, and everybody was happy, no charge.
That's great. And it's super valuable information that they can even use the next time they get insurance and the next time they bump into these problems, and something they'll have forever. So if you're getting a new policy, if you need to review your current policy, or if you have a claim or even a previous claim, what'd you say, back 2 years, even in some places, people should reach out to you?
Mostly 1 year, but some places 2 years.
And then what else was I going to ask before we go into the funny question? Oh, is it only homeowners insurance that you do claim adjusting for, or is it other types of insurance as well?
We do homeowners and business owners, churches, and marinas. Real talk.
Okay. That's awesome. And we will put their information up so you guys can reach out to Galen and Hugh. I did type that wrong somewhere. I'm not going to bring that tile up. Galen. All right. So we're going to go to our funny question and I have a phobia about using people's names. Even if I know it for a million years, I can't say because I will mess it up somehow, or I don't know. I have this phobia, which is weird as a salesperson. But anyway, all right, our funny question before we close out. So I Google just funny questions, and there's 81 of them on this list. And so one of you pick a number between, actually, we'll just start with Galen. You can pick a number, and then Hugh, you can go. So Galen, pick a number between 1 and 81.
65.
65.
Make you work a little bit.
All right. What does the perfect day look like? That's a good one.
Sunshine, sitting in the woods, calling a turkey.
Okay. Turkey hunter. You got the mustache for it. I think you have the best mustache of any guest I've ever had also. So we'll give you that one too. I'd like to see you. I can picture you out there with one of those guns with the Elmer Fudd thing. Is there a name for those? There's a name for those guns.
I don't remember.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, Hugh, pick a number between 1 and 81.
13.
13 down to the bottom or the top, depending on how you look at it. And you picked the unlucky number. That's all right. All right. What animal is the biggest party animal? All right. What animal do you think would party hard?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say a cat.
Okay.
They strut around all day, not doing a whole lot, lay around, but I'm pretty sure that if you left them alone long enough and there's more than one in the house, you're going to come back, and you never know how things got destroyed. So
yeah, there could be like those people that are really serious, but then when they get drunk, they're like the craziest person and they let loose. I could see that for sure. I'd like to see Garfield get drunk sometime. Garfield and Heathcliff.
Yeah.
And Nermal. All right, I'll put your Nermal. That's Garfield's best friend, the gray cat.
Oh, okay.
All right. Read your information so people can find you, and read it aloud so people that may be listening later on audio version can get it.
Okay. It's metropa.com. I'm Galen at 717-487-8203. My email is metrogalen@gmail.com.
And I'm Hugh. My phone number is 443-528-2980. And it's metrohugh, HUGH, @gmail.com.
Awesome. And I'll leave all that stuff up there so everybody can see it and can reach out to either one of you if you have any homeowners insurance or business insurance or any of those other things you mentioned. And you guys also have a special offer for everybody, for anybody that gets a policy review by the 30th. So that'll be, what is that? So I'll include this in the next email, but it'll expire 5 days after that. So I'll give all you guys watching one more reminder before that expires, but you can get a $25 American Express gift card for any policy review from Galen or Hugh. A couple announcements before we go out. If you're interested in a business spotlight package, which consists of Greg coming to your business, kind of showing how the sausage is made behind the scenes. You saw him at Dexterity Depot on the Ninja Warrior wall trying that. He actually did make it up, not the tallest one, but he got up to the second highest one. I did the tallest one, just to point out. If you're interested in a business spotlight package, which consists of that, an interview like you're seeing here with me, and a networking mixer, assuming COVID permits and your business permits and all that kind of stuff, you can reach out to us or apply on the website. I know we're booked out for mixers till like August or September or something like that, but if you want to do an episode with me, please reach out. I'll send you a link to set all that up. If you want to get access to our special offers, the one we just mentioned, and all the other ones, join our email list. It's just one email a week, like I said. And if you're watching somewhere on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, if you're listening on iTunes later or anywhere other than Facebook, please head over to Facebook and join our Facebook group. Central PA Supports Small Business. A lot of good stuff happening in there. I think we're up to about 12,000-ish members, and we still have like 10,000 active members per month, which means people are in there active. People are getting business. Even a few people that say, I don't post as much, or they had to stop posting because they were getting too much business. So especially if you have a visual business, do really well in there. And if you need to find something, go in there and say, I need somebody to fix the siding on this log house. There will be some specialist and you'll get a whole bunch of answers and good answers. So I encourage everybody to head over there. Again, we will be on Clubhouse after this episode 1 to 2. I'm at Agent Derek on that. Please follow me and contact me if you need to buy or sell a house. Like I said, our inventory is super, super low. Prices are way, way up. Text me, email me, throw a rock through my window, send a carrier pigeon, however you need to reach me. Please reach out. We need houses like crazy. Remember to support Central PA's small business like Galen and Hugh. Thanks for watching and listening. And thank you, Hugh and Galen, for being here. Say bye.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Have a good day.
See you, everybody.